So now you're ready. You've got your brand, you know what your audience wants, you're ready to go out and you start a conversation. As you look at what your daily goals are going to be, one of the things that's going to be a little daunting initially is you're going to be creating a lot of content. Right. You're going to be writing a lot of blogs, you're going to be communicating. Initially, it's probably going to take a little bit more time than it will as you evolve. On average, I spend about 15 minutes a day on Twitter and Facebook. There was some statistic on MSNBC the other day that said, are you addicted to Facebook? And it showed these wild times that people spend on there. I thought, oh my God, I have to shower, right? I hope I'm not living next to somebody who does that. But you know what? But you really, and I recommend get a little egg timer, whatever, put it by your desk and just be very disciplined about it. Because boy, the internet is just some big black hole, isn't it?
Yeah,
you wake up and you're like 40, right? And so you're thinking, oh my gosh, where did my life go? And it's being sucked on online. Because there are other things that you need to be doing. You need to be writing and working and keeping the lights on and things like that. So the first piece of this is you have your website, you're blogging on a regular basis. Now, we talked about incoming links. Twitter and Facebook are great for incoming links, but don't use your Facebook profile. Get a fan page. And that's why you want to have a specific brand, because your fan page comes up in searches, whereas your profile doesn't. Now, that may change because Facebook seems to be changing every single day. But fan pages are fabulous for SEO. All right? So, and Twitter, when I started on Twitter, as I mentioned, we had around 35,000 incoming links to our site. Now we have about 400,000. Every post is searchable. That's the other thing, by the way. Everything is your resume. And let me just say this early on. Everything you post online is your resume. So make sure that we have a client, actually, it's a mutual client of Jennifer's and mine, who has every one of her blog posts edited. I think that's smart, because you really don't want me editing your book, because I just, it's very hard to self-edit. You want to make sure that you are posting relevant content, that if somebody were to lift it and it appear in a newspaper, that you wouldn't think, oh dear God, right? I actually had that happen with the paper here in Arizona, which was great. I mean, he quoted me on a Facebook thing, and unfortunately the newspapers are so understaffed now that a lot of times they can't always call you, but on my blog it says, if you, the proper attribution and whatnot, you can use this. And I found it in a Google alert, and I appeared in the air. I was like, well, that's really cool, but good thing, right, that I wasn't just sort of meandering on about how the Social Network movie is probably right, and this guy's a goofball, and blah, blah, right? So those, you just really want to be careful that everything is your resume. So you get out there and you start communicating. Now let me talk about some shortcuts. And also we're going to talk about how to really build some great incoming links very, very quickly. All of these sites, Facebook, Twitter, your website, they can all talk to each other. By talking to each other, I mean that if you blog on your website, you can link it to Twitter, and Twitter can then link it to Facebook. Now people say to me, but then the content appears in a lot of different places. I don't believe that everybody coming to your store enters through the same door. I think people find you, we have a website, we have a newsletter that goes out every 2 weeks. I blog on our website, I have a Twitter account, I have a Facebook account, and I have a Huffington Post column. So, and I also, obviously I have a business to run, and as I pointed out, right, we all want to shower and actually have a life. But I recycle content, but I'm very careful about it. So I have a blog, so the Huffington Post always gets first dibs on everything I do. So I put it on HuffPo, and then we might modify it slightly, put it in the newsletter, but I generally will wait a month or a month and a half or 2 months or whatever. And then we'll snippet a lot of that out as appropriate to the article and the piece and put it on Twitter. Recycling will save you a lot of time. So as you start to create content, right, like this video, now from this video, we can do potentially 5 different segments on YouTube. So now I have all this content. And then that continues to grow the YouTube channel, and it's a beautiful thing. Okay, so creating content, create it once, use it in some form or fashion. Red hot internet publicity is everywhere online. Excerpted, paragraph here, whatever. And people say to me, well, aren't you worried about somebody just grabbing it? And he said, you know what, if you've got enough time that you can cobble together this entire book, God love you, I'll give you 10 of them, right? People generally don't, it's like the Snow White example, right? People generally don't have that much time. You know, if they do, they're probably a little scary. But you really, you know, recycle as much as you can because, again, people will find you in different places. And the more that you can recycle, the more opportunity you have for those incoming links. Now I'm gonna talk you through something that if the only thing that you do is this, when you walk out of here, as far as your marketing goes, you'll be light years ahead of most everybody. And it's one of the hottest new things in SEO, although, you know, we've been doing it for 4 years before anybody even knew what it was. It was kind of like when I was trying to sell Twitter pages, people were like, Twitter? Ew, right? And I'm going to talk to you in a minute about how to filter through Twitter too, because that can be very confusing, and also how to monetize it. So, blog commenting. How many of you have ever posted a comment on a blog? Okay. Maybe you were helping out a friend, maybe you saw a news piece, whatever that was. All this research that you've done to figure out where your audience is, now you're going to start to talk to them. And you're going to talk to them through blog commenting. Okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to, every time that you comment on a blog, it asks you for your name and your website address. And you will put that in there, and it's an incoming link to your site. Now, there's a whole theory out there, and if any of you want to read the articles that I have on blog commenting from SEO people, which are very layperson, they're very great, they're actually quite entertaining to read. Sometimes you'll hear the word no-follow link. And essentially what that means is the website blocks people from doing this, right? It doesn't really matter, because studies have shown that the SEO juice is still strong on the site, when in fact, sometimes when a website has a lot of links going out, leaving it, it tends to bleed the site for momentum, and that's why a lot of blogs are not doing it. So I highly recommend go out and comment on websites. Communicate. Again, you're walking into a networking meeting, right? Now you're going to start to talk to the people who are there. And that's what you do on these blogs. Now, the second reason why you want to do it is because you want to get to know these blog sites, right? You want to get to know the people who are writing, especially if you say, gosh, I'd like to write for iVillage, or I'd like to write for Huffington Post. Well, Huffington, actually, you can email the track person at any track that you want to write about at Huffington Post and ask them for their guidelines, and they're always open to new content, always. So, go out there and start communicating, because then when your book comes out, or your second book, or whatever, then you can offer them, would you like to review, right? You'd like to review my book. Or maybe they want to interview you, or maybe they want to endorse it. I mean, other than the fact that I'm a huge fan of Seth Godin, I do have an ulterior motive, please don't tell him, for staying in touch with him all these years, because I want him, he's going to endorse Get Published Today. Sorry, Seth, in case he's watching the video, which I highly doubt, because I'm sure he has better things to do. But, I mean, these are people these are relationships. And, people talk about, we live in a society where nobody communicates, and it's all on email, and it's electronic, and blah, blah, blah. You can still create those relationships. You can I have people for years that I have emailed back and forth that I've never met, this whole community of people. And in particular on Facebook, that I feel like I know these people. Like I could have them over to my house, right? Because you have had such a dialogue with them. That's really what you want to foster. And I don't recommend that you do hundreds of these a week, because really, again, who's got that much time? I track about 50 or so different blogs, and I'll post maybe 5 comments a week. Sometimes I really only get to do 1, and that's okay. What you want is you want consistency, and the best kind of internet marketing is slow growth over time. You don't want to build this instantaneously, because you could potentially get your site in trouble. You could even get, you could lose ranking on it. We had an author who was getting ready to hire us, and they were really impatient, and they said, can we start the tour now? I said, your book's not even out. You really shouldn't start this early, right, for the particular campaign they were doing. Well, they went to one of these link farm companies in India and subscribed and decided to do it. And she called me up on a Friday, And she said, my website's gone. So what do you mean your website's gone? Well, Google had seen thousands of incoming links going to this site over a very short period of time and decided to sandbox it, which essentially means they pull it out of circulation. And yes, Google can do that. So you want to be careful. And the real sad part is the next day they were on the Today Show. Problem, right? No website. So slow growth over time. There is no, don't buy into instant success, instant, because it just doesn't work that way. And the best way to sell a book is not to focus on the sale of the book. I wrote an article on Huffington Post that I thought for sure they were, never going to run, and that I was going to get a ton of hate mail, and it was called Why Some Authors Fail. And the number one reason is because we associate our success with book sales. Absolutely. This is part of the reason why you want to figure out what your platform is, because you want to have success in other areas. You want to get invited to present on that at that writers conference or to write for that blog, because then the book sales will start to come. Book sales can be sometimes very tricky to come by. You have to cast the net very wide. But a lot of times when you focus just on the sale of the book, oh my God, I've got to sell this book. And that's the only thing that you associate with success. And here's the really interesting thing. We had an author who was, who sort of did that when he came to us. He goes, I'm just so discouraged. I've been out here for a year, I'm so discouraged. I said, you know what we're going to do? We're not going to market your book. I know it says author marketing experts, so let's just forget about that. We're not going to market your book. We're going to market you as a speaker. Now he's getting $5,000 every time at a minimum as speaker fees. He doesn't really care about book sales. Right?